Hi guys, and welcome to this week's Alakazam Book Corner. Hi guys, and welcome to the Alakazam Book Corner. I'm Andy Smith, and this week I'm joined by Peter Nardi.
Hi.
So I've been trying for a couple of weeks to get him on here, and through different reasons such as holidays and other commitments, we haven't managed to. But today we have, and I'm super excited because today we're going to talk about something that actually was brought up by a customer. I was talking to him on email. And then actually he phoned through and we were having a chat, and we were talking about really the two different approaches that it takes or it has to magic books, because people collect them for different reasons. The two main reasons being obviously information and value as well. And if you're like me, what I tend to do is I tend to do a bit of both. I collect them for the information and for the value as well. So one of the main reasons for Peter to be on here is obviously Peter, as well as being a magician, you run a magic empire. So so from
books. I mean, you're our book expert. I will be honest with you. I mean, when I sort of started in magic and everything, there weren't DVDs, there weren't videos, so books was where it was at, really. But I'll be honest, since the invention of DVDs and videos and everything else, that is my go-to place for learning magic. For me personally, I find it not so much easier, I find it quicker. I think as you get older, you sort of feel you've got less time, so you can just go and get it. Saying that, in recent years, the last 1 or 2 years, I've got back into books. And I... Value-wise, with regards to the information within the books are incredible value. They really are. When you consider how many tricks you get in a book compared to what you'll get on a DVD or a video, and not only that, the thing I like about them as well is I can read the description of a trick and it leaves it down to me to find a good presentation. Whereas when you watch a video or a DVD, you do tend to sort of steer towards the presentation because it's all there for you on a plate.
Yeah, quite. And this is actually quite a valid point. We had our club meeting last night. We had our club competition, which was amazing, by the way. Very, very high standard all round for all the participants involved. And one of our club members, Anthony, he comes all the way down from London to come to our club meetings. And he came into the shop and we were talking, and then we went and had a bite to eat. And in the car, he said to me, so you're a book guy. Why do you like those over DVDs? And I said to him, it's not that I like them over DVDs, because I have a lot of books, I read a lot of books, but I watch a lot of DVDs, and I have a lot of DVDs as well. And the whole point behind it is exactly what you just said there. With a book, your creative element, the creative part of your mind is filling in the blanks. It's there, and then they're leaving it really to you to interpret it the way that you see it. And then the video comes along and it's there for you, so you can literally go, right, okay, I'll do it exactly like that. And I think it's important to really have both. That's how you learn.
And even if the book has got the full script for the effect, you're still adding your personality to it, delivering that script. Whereas you tend to find that when you watch stuff on DVD, I must admit, I tend to watch method more, because I know that if I watch a trick or I see a trick that I want to do, I will know how to get it into my style of performing. So I'll be more interested in the method they're using. But the good thing with a book is, even though there might be a script there, you will deliver that script in your own way. Whereas if you watch it off a DVD, chances are you're going to be more there'll be more chance of you delivering it exactly the same pauses, the same laughs. And I'm falling foul to this actually with, it's not a DVD or anything, but it's a trick that I've loved for many years. which has only just come on the market a couple of years ago, and I purchased one because it's one of my favourite tricks of all time, and I thought to myself I'd really like to perform that, but at the time the guy who invented it didn't release the product for sale. It was his, he used to do it, so obviously he couldn't do it. I bought the rights to perform it and everything, but in my mind I want to give it my own twist. But his is so perfect. He's worked years to get it, you know, and that's one of those occasions that I will end up falling into his presentation because he's done it. Whereas if I'd read it in a book, I would have come up with my own one.
Yeah, and I think this is also an important thing to have a look at. Yeah, I read recently in a book by a well-known author that, you know, you shouldn't copy things. You know, we shouldn't go down this route of copying and the whole mimicry thing. And yet, in another book that has just been released, the Johnny Thompson book, if you read one of the introductions that is in there by Teller, he actually makes a very, very valid argument for, you know, it's okay to copy. I think what you know the difference is in Teller's words is that copy by all means, because what happens is you copy something and then you discover your differences and what suits you and what doesn't suit you, and before you know it, you've now got something that is yours. Where it's not good is to go out and just perform it in public and claim that it's an original routine with you. I think that's where he's coming from. But you know, it's the distinction to make, and I think this is the thing. You know, it is okay to. And
the thing is, if someone has worked, if I've worked, let's say the Hollywood or Bus routine, I have worked on that for years to get the scripting absolutely, in my mind, perfect, to make sure there's no pitfalls. So realistically, if someone said, how should I do it? I would say, copy me. Because I've been there, I've done it. So if someone is going to go, do you know what? You can buy this effect. I'll give you my full script. I've been working it for 50 years. I've done, you know, I've tripped over every hurdle. I've ironed it all out. It's all there. You'll be a fool not to use that as your basis.
Of course.
And that's what a lot of books give you. They give you the basis. They give you the full method, and they give you the basis. Now, whether that's a full script, but the nice thing is reading it from a book, like we said, you interpret that script in your own way with your own timing. You add your own humour. But you've got a rough guideline of where you need to go.
And let's face it. I mean, you know, if you're going to look at something that you read in a book, chances are you could probably find a performance of that on somewhere like YouTube. So if you really want to see the performer doing it and you can't get them on a DVD, then the likelihood is there'll probably be a bit of footage somewhere that you can have a look at and you can think, well, actually, you know, that joke would never work for me there, and I can see why it works for them. So maybe I can find something that will work for me, and then go through it. So that is one of the big values of books is it does give you that creative element that you can go away and you can use and you can play around with without it sitting there literally in front of you for you to just copy word for word. But that is okay by the same token.
And the other thing, obviously, with a DVD, there's only so much physically you can fit on a DVD. Whereas a book, you can put in as many pages as you want. Hence, you tend to get a hell of a lot more information in a book than you would do on a DVD.
So I said at the beginning about the value in magic books and about the two values, obviously for information purposes, but there is a value in collecting books as well. And I think, you know, we've spoken about this before. One of the downsides currently of collecting magic books is the fact that they're not as hard to come by now as what they possibly were before. Do we think that's because of the change in interest, or what do you think that is?
Well, it's really weird now because you've still got you've got a huge amount of magicians that have got into magic. I mean, literally every day people are getting into magic. So the whole process with regards to magic that people get into when they get into magic has changed from when we were young. When we were young, it was all about books. There were no DVDs, there weren't no videos. So for us, something like this was the most amazing Christmas present. That was your year's learning.
Yeah.
You know, so there was a lot of value on books for us, and people in our generation, or the Magic generation, we put a lot more value on these, because I that's what I personally think, because it is something we've been brought up with and been brought up with learning. Whereas nowadays, you've got PDF copies.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same if you look at photographs compared to photographs on your phone.
Yeah.
People of our generation, I mean, all right, we're right on the cusp, so we're using our phones. But you go the generation before us, they want the real photograph to hold, not swipe through on a phone. And it's the same with this.
It kind of, you know, it explains the decline, and that's a good sort of metaphor to go with here. Is it kind of explains the decline of something like you know, photo labs. You know, the photo processing places in Boots and Bonus Print. And I can speak from experience because I used to work for Bonus Print. That when digital started to come along, you know, people obviously could then print off the stuff of their own. They could go and buy photo paper and print it off. And so there was immediately, it's devalued because of that. But there was always people that still, you know, they wanted this.
And there are
slideshows
still,
and stuff.
Yeah, there are still people that really heavily collect books. And books, in my opinion, and I've seen it through Alex Sam, the same way you have, are making a big comeback. Books are making a big comeback because I think people are beginning to discover the value of books. I think that the big problem in this day and age is people perceive they haven't got enough time.
Yeah.
Shall I get a book? When will I have a chance to read it? That's the thing, you know. Whereas they can buy a PDF, or they can just watch a download video and learn a new trick. And it is crazy, because if you look at something like this, I don't know how much this retails for, but let's say one book, they used to retail at about 25 quid a book. I think they're still roughly the same.
Yeah.
So 25 quid, you're getting so much information, whereas someone will go out and spend 25 quid on a download of an impromptu trick that maybe uses a double lift.
Quite.
You know? But it's for the ease. That's the thing. And until people start to realise what is held within these pages and how much information is there, they will not truly understand the value of a book.
And of course on the flip side of this as well, and the Books of Wonder are a prime example of this. I remember getting my set, and I'm not going to tell you how much I spent on them, but I remember getting my set, and you could not get hold of a copy for love nor money. You could not get hold of a copy for love nor money. And for serious collectors, that is quite a hit now that this has been released, because it's kind of like, oh, we've collected, we've got this, no one else has it, but now this has been re-released.
And do you know what? The reason why Magic books are so collectible as well is the Magic market is very, very small. It's a tiny market. And what happens is when people produce a book, they'll produce maybe 1,000 copies. Now, they'll sell out of that 1,000 copies if it's a popular book. I mean, the Johnny Thompson's one, what did they sell out in 4 days? And I don't know how many they produced, but it was well over 1,000. They sold out in 4 days. Now, the issue comes with the Johnny Thompson, it's not much of a problem because so many people wanted it. But the issue now comes where you think to yourself, okay, I could most probably sell about another 50, but to make it plausible, I've got to produce another 1,000. And now it doesn't weigh up. And that's the same with Magic tricks, and it's the same with Magic DVDs, and it's the same as Magic books. If we produce 1,000, we sell out that 1,000, that's fantastic. Suddenly we're out of stock, but one customer wants one. Do we now commit to another £10,000 to get that one customer his product for £30? Which is why books and tricks and DVDs go off the market for quite a while. And obviously, once a book is off the market, people want it. Because there's always going to be people that want a book. There's always going to be there. And the harder it is to get, the more value the book becomes. But then you have got the other thing, the true collectors would want the first edition. Whereas other people that just want the book and
Yeah.
are willing to pay a bit extra don't really care whether it's the first edition.
Yeah, no,
They just want
exactly.
the book.
And to be honest, I mean, you know, I have a couple of first editions, but you know, for me, it is about information purposes as well. So if I didn't have the set that I have, then I would buy a copy of these.
Yeah,
you know, and
that's it.
And that is it at the end of the day. You know, be it that you collect because of what a book's worth or whatever. You know, the information for the most part is the thing that you're after.
Yeah, and like anything, buying magic books as an investment, if you're a collector, you'll have a valuable collection, whatever it is, because magic books are always going to hold some sort of value.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a popular book. If it's like an old little pamphlet from a magician no one knew, then most probably not. But if you were going to get the books of wonder, you'll always be able to sell them at a price.
Yeah.
And like anything that builds in value, its value is governed by what people are prepared to pay.
Yeah.
That's it. Unless it's something like gold, which is a very rare mineral or whatever it is, that has got a set value, whereas a book is only the value of that is £25 in my mind, or whatever it is. But if it wasn't available, I might still say to you, well, I'll give you 30 quid, that's all it was. Whereas you might really want it and go, well, I'll give you 100.
Yeah.
So now that's the value of that book.
Yeah.
And you will find that certain books as well, and you've got a lot of these, which annoys me because I haven't, things like Cards as Weapons.
Yeah.
Now that's one of these legendary books, and I remember about 16 years ago, everyone I knew was after this book.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, they were after it. And I must admit, I hunted down a copy. I had a signed copy of Cards as Weapons. And do you know what? It was an all right book. I'm going to get shot for saying this. But it was an all right book, but it was like 300 quid or something I paid for it.
Yeah.
Thinking I was going to get this
Uh-huh.
amazing book. But it wasn't. It was just the value that everyone was prepared to pay for it.
Yeah, and
it's not a 300 quid book in my
No,
mind.
exactly. You know, and you're right. I mean, you know, purely if and I can speak for experience. You know, a couple of years back, I went for a period where I was after copies of the Alex Elmsley books. I was after copies of the Mint books, the Marlowe Mint books. And you know, I drove like nearly 100 miles to pick up a set of these books and back and pay for them, much to my wife's displeasure. But I needed to have these books, and for no other reason other than the fact that they contained information that I knew that was in there that I desperately wanted to read and I desperately wanted to learn and sort of tinker about with. But you're right, it is dependent on what you want to pay, because you know I've picked up books before that maybe I've sold on as well, and I thought, and people have literally, I've had an idea of the price in my mind and they've gone, well, I'll give you this amount for them. And you're like, right, okay. And you can't understand why they're paying that amount, but it is for that reason. It's because they
need.
That's what they want.
Yeah, it's a need. I mean, we had the same thing with Pure Effect. Pure Effect, I had in stock when it first came out. Used to sell for 25 quid, 30 quid. Suddenly they're on eBay for like £350.
Yeah.
And you just think it's crazy. But as long as someone's willing to pay it, the book prices will always go up. There are certain books which are classics that if you had a first edition would be worth money, things like Expert at the Card Table and stuff like that. But with a majority of these, they will go up in value, but it really is all to do with how desired they are as a product and how rare they are. Yeah. If you can get them anywhere, you're not going to be able to sell yours for 100. No. If you can't get them anywhere and people want it, then the price goes up. Yeah. But you're never, with magic books, for one, they look great on the shelves. They're full of fantastic information, and they are always going to hold some sort of value. Yeah. You're always going to have a market for magic books. Yeah. There's always a market there.
And again, you hit the nail on the head there. You know, use them for what they're intended for, which is for information and enjoyment. Yeah, yeah. You know, that's it. I mean, you know, everything else aside, if you collect them for value in a totally money sense as well, then fine. but they are there to be enjoyed and to have, you know, information taken out from them. So, you know, why not? I certainly get a lot of joy out of reading it, as you guys, I'm sure, are aware by now. So that is great, Peter. There was another reason for getting Peter in here, because there were some books that I wanted to talk about as well. So I think first of all we should start with the Banachek books.
Yes.
Now I have been asked several times about mentalism books, and I don't own a lot of mentalism books. I have a passing interest in mentalism, mainly because of the effects of yourself and other people that I've met before that are into mentalism a lot more heavier, and these are a great set of books.
The Psychological Subtleties books are very, very good. I mean, Psychological Subtleties 1 was more about psychological subtleties, which was sort of psychological forces.
Yeah.
Plants that, if you ask someone to think of a plant, what plant would they think of?
Yeah.
How can you get someone to think of a car? How can you do this? What are the top 10 most popular drawings someone might draw? So it was all to do with forces and things like that, really. Whereas number 2 and number 3 are more about effects, which, and they're full of great effects, and they're effects that will use psychological forces.
Yeah.
There's an effect in volume 3, I think, that I created, which was a drawing dupe. I created it with Mark Spellman, which was on his chapters DVDs. The reason it's in there, not just because it's a drawing dupe, but because it uses a psychological subtlety.
Right.
So these are really good books. If you're into mentalism as well, 13 Steps, even though it's an old book and you might look at it and think it's out of date, the material and information in there is incredible, and it's, with a little thought, you can adapt it to current day. Anything by Bob Cassidy.
Yeah.
You know, the Artful Mentalism of Bob Cassidy is amazing. If you want good commercial mentalism, things like Stunners by Larry Becker. But there's so much information out there. With mentalism, you need to decide where you want to go. A lot of people are into propless mentalism now. It's not something that really appeals to me that much unless it's got a surefire hit. But there's so much material out there, and once again, I will say there are people releasing manuscripts for £100, £200, £300, £400 for one trick, or this miracle that will get you to smell someone's ear and be able to tell them what country they went to on holiday. I mean, it's some of this stuff.
That could be the basis of a marketing effect.
I'm copywriting that. So, but you can go to something like Stunners, or go to something like Psychological Subtleties or Artful Mentalism, and for a fraction of the price, you're going to have tried and tested routines that actually work. Yeah. And PDFs do not hold a value.
No, they don't. And as much as they may be convenient, I don't know about you, I hate reading PDFs.
Yeah, no,
I honestly do.
I'm not a lover of PDFs, to be fair. But, you know, there's obviously a market for it. It's this day and age, and it's a quick, easy and efficient way to get the information out there, and it's a cost-effective way as well, rather than having to go for the design, the publishing and everything else. But yeah, for anyone that doesn't read books, I mean, I don't read that many. Andy is our book expert here, so if you need to know anything about books, Andy's your man. But I have got a collection of books at home. They are books that I will look through. My latest acquisitions was the Tenyo books, which I love old magic catalogues and anything to do with magic and selling magic. So I've got the Tenyo books. I got the Johnny Thompson books, which I'm yet to look into. The John Lovick book.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you know, I love books. And do you know what? The books that I go back to, not talking about mentalism, the books I seem to go back to time and time again, which will most probably shock you because they're very modern, are Paul Gordon's and John Carey's. And I've said this before, the reason why is if I'm going out and I want to learn 2 or 3 tricks, I can pick up the book, read 1 page, and I'll know a trick, and it's just like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Great, I know it.
Yeah.
I know I can present them when I get there. It's just remembering the mythologies.
And as you guys are aware, obviously, I've interviewed both John and Paul, and you're seeing exactly what Peter's just said there. They're very succinctly written. They're very clearly written.
Yeah.
So it's easy to pick up. It's easy to.
That's actually Paul Gordon saying thanks for the plug.
Yeah, thanks for that. They are they're very clear, and you can pick up exactly what you need to know in a short space of time. You don't have to go through pages and pages before you get to something where you think, oh, actually that makes sense. It is very, very straightforward. One of the things that I am always in awe of, and Peter might blush at this, I don't know, is the fact that whenever me and Dave approach you and we say we're working on this idea, we've got this idea, and you kind of run through things with us, you always have this really uncanny ability of just sort of going, right, do you know what? That will come out of there. This can come out of here. I wouldn't do it necessarily like that. And then before we know it, you've got a whole complete presentation for something that we've literally just got the gems of an idea for. So I'm interested to know exactly how your creative process works. And talking about the psychological subtleties, the amount of times that you take something out and you say, do you know what, I put this little piece of wording in here, which is exactly that. It is the psychological gambits and little bits of business that I think elevate things. So when you're kind of approaching a routine, or you see a routine, how do you, what's your immediate thought? What do you immediately look for and think, do you know what, I would just change that? I know that you have an extremely well-grounded grasp of lots of different methods from lots of different disciplines, from card magic, from mentalism, lots of things. What exactly is it that you pinpoint straight away, do you think?
Do you know what, it's really hard for me to say. One, I mean, I'm certainly not one for blowing my own trumpet. I really am not. But if there was one thing I would say that I would stand up and say I was good at, that is watching someone else, and if it can be, seeing a way that it can either be improved to get more impact, or just change slightly if it needs it. And I'm not sure how. I think a lot of it is because I did used to read a lot of books, I've watched a lot of DVDs, and I'm a method collector. When a new trick comes in, the thing that excites me about tricks are methods. I want to see how other people's creative processes work.
Right.
So because I've got, I presume, this knowledge of methods, and you do something, and it's the same with, reading all these and reading all the mentalism books and understanding mentalism and magic. When you do a trick and I'll watch it and I might go, actually, if you took that out of the box after putting that on the table, then you've got 2 reveals, but you're doing exactly the same thing but in the wrong order. And it just appears clear to me.
Right.
And I don't know, I've always been sort of quite creative, like putting things together. Even before this, I had a recording studio. I used to do mixes, so straight away I could listen to a record and instantly I could create something in my mind and just go grab out all the records and create what we used to call a mega mix back then. I think they call them mashups now or something. But so I used to listen to one thing and then suddenly my mind would just go boom, 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 boom. I used to go up to the thing, got all my records out and just create this new piece of music out of it. And I think it's the same with this. It's just being able to look at something, and you need to break it down and you need to see it from different angles and say, do you know what, the idea is the card's going to appear in the box, but what happens if it vanishes at this moment? What happens if it vanishes at this moment or this moment? How's that going to affect what's happening?
And I think it's actually quite a unique skill set, because if you read something like Strong Magic, which is all about designing an effect from a presentation point of view, and then you read Designing Miracles, which is all about designing an effect from a method point of view, they are two distinct things.
Yeah.
And Darwin Ortiz says in both books that realistically those, and you display it, we see this all the time. You actually do it both in parallel. So when you're looking at a method, you're actually working the presentation at the same time. I think it's very easy, and I'm certainly guilty of this, that before I've got a presentation, I've worked out the way that the effect is going to work from a method point of view.
Yeah,
A is going to go here,
pretty
etc.
much the same.
But I think at the same time, which I think is like I said, a unique skill set. You are actually thinking about the presentation. I think that's why it's kind of, it throws us a little bit, because you'll work out a method, but at the same time you've got a presentation for it, and you're quite happy to go, right, let me do it, and then you perform it, and we're like, where did that come from? That's amazing.
I think the presentation, some of it comes from justifying the method that I'm putting in.
Right. Okay.
Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
I don't know whether I've just got these various ingredients that are all there, and suddenly you show me something. I take this, and this, but this method has got this presentation attached. This has got this has got this. So we start to create this whole new thing.
Yeah.
Hence, I can, if you show me a trick, I'll go, oh yeah, let me perform it, and I'll just give you some big rubbish presentation, but it would actually make sense. I mean, it wouldn't be a final thing I would do, but I can blag my way through.
Right.
And I think it's because each one of these things sort of has something attached to it anyway. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the method's got a very loose thing, I would say, if I was using that method.
Right.
This has got a very loose thing, and then suddenly when you put it all together, those loose things tighten up, and you build your presentation around it.
Right.
Because there are things you're gonna, there are moves that might look a little bit suspicious or need to be justified. So you have to have a presentation built around it to normalise it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for me, it is method, and I'm always learning. Always learning, and it's only by watching other people and being interested in what they're doing and the method to it, and you just build up a database, really.
Yeah,
that's it. You just build up a database of methods.
And he doesn't stop thinking either. The amount of times that we'll come in for, like, the next morning, you'll go, do you know what, I had a thought last night, and it'll be something about we talked about when we're locking up.
Yeah.
And then you might say it just as you're getting into your car, and then the next morning you go, I have a thought just as I was getting in the car. And then you'll tell us about it, and we're like, right, okay, we make a cup of tea, and you'll be like, I just had another thought, and it just goes on and on and on. So but I think that's great. I think that we stop thinking too quickly. I think it's very easy. You get a routine, you do it, and you get a good reaction from it. You got a good presentation for it, but then it kind of stops there, and you don't necessarily go away and think any more about it. Which brings me very nicely. See the segue. Oh, you're going to say something else?
I was going to say one more thing, actually. This is a really weird thing, but if I come up or create an effect, let's say we've talked about saying, I've created an effect, I'll get it in my mind when I go home, I'll come in, I'll perform it to you in the morning. It will be quite hard for me then. I might sort of go, oh, actually, I'm going to add another 9 of spades in, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. But what helps me is then watching you perform the same effect.
Right.
Because then I'm looking at it from a different perspective.
So it's kind of like a feedback loop, isn't it? You have this
even
feedback.
though you might do exactly the same thing that I'm doing in exactly the same way with exactly the same script, by sitting back and watching someone else do it, I can now watch it from a different position.
Yeah.
Rather than me doing it and my mind's just saying, okay, you've got to do this, got to do this, got to do this. I can then sit back, relax, watch you do, and I go, do you know what, Andy? Try doing that in that way rather than that way. Try doing this here. Like I'm directing myself, but I can't direct myself, because when I'm doing it, I'm focused on doing it rather than... Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
So that's a great help. Having, if you've got magic friends or you've got a magic club and you've come up with a trick, teach it to one of your friends and get them to do it for you, and watch it as if you're watching yourself do it. And then think about, okay, could I change that? How could I change? What felt a bit awkward to me? What bits didn't I like? What did I want to ask when he was doing the trick? which is another important point.
Yeah.
Because when you're doing it, you're doing it. When you're watching someone do it, you might go, I'm just thinking, what's in that other hand?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's important to have that sort of feedback, you know, and if you've got venues that you go and perform, then great. If people come and see you there, ask for feedback, ask for, you know, that sort of feedback. I do with Dave all the time. I do with you. Peter, you came and see me at Houdini's Saturday night, brilliant. You know, and gave me some feedback. So it is all about that process, and you've got people there. Don't be afraid to get them to give you feedback. I mean, you know, feedback is different to criticism. You know, the criticism. All right, you know, are some people that are able to do it tactfully, but criticism generally comes across as being harsh.
Yeah.
But feedback is more than permissible from people.
And remember, we've all got our own opinions. So my opinion is just my opinion.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
In my mind, I know what's going to get the best results, but that doesn't mean it will.
No.
But in my mind,
yeah, exactly.
It is. Do you know what I mean?
It is just the whole. It's having the ability to be open to suggestions, possibly,
and it's only going to improve things if you agree with it. And but I would say it is a very good point if you can do it. If you create an effect, teach one of your friends at the Magic Club, get them to perform it for you, and watch them perform it, and look at it from a distance, and see how your effect is playing to you.
Yeah.
Do you really like it? Do you think that could be changed slightly? But that, you know, like I said, it brings us back to books and the fact that when you read a book, you get the method, but you've got to think about it.
Yeah.
You've got to put it together in most cases.
Exactly that. So with that in mind, I wanted to talk about these books. They are here for a reason as well. So these graced our shelves a couple of weeks back, and super excited to get them back in stock, to have them reprinted. This is no lie when I say this. This set of books is possibly one of the most influential sets to come out in the last 30 years or so.
Yeah.
And one I think has possibly had one of the biggest impacts. The thing is about these books is that they look intimidating books. I mean, you see them there and you think, wow, you know, that is a huge amount of stuff that you're gonna go through there. But I kid you not, if you don't get anything out of these books, then there is something wrong.
Yeah.
There is seriously something wrong. The thing is, if you was to think, I mean, you open up the book, one of the first topics that's approached in here is about theory and why we as magicians need theory. If you was to just open the book and see that one paragraph, I think that you would probably be possibly put off, right? There is not just theory in here. There are tons and tons of routines, effects, bits of business, for want of a better word, as well as theory, and it just encompasses everything that is good about a magic performance. Now, I remember the first time that I saw Tommy Wonder. I saw him at Blackpool one year doing the Canary act with the cage and cups and balls as well in one of the close-up shows. I'm sure that you probably saw him at Blackpool as well.
Yeah.
And certainly on DVDs and on YouTube, there is plenty of material that are out there. This set of books is the one set, other than Strong Magic and Designing Miracles, that I read every year religiously. And I get very in fact, I think I said to you the other day that my book, I dropped it, it slipped out of the dust jacket, and I was literally left there like this, and the book landed on my foot. Now, I could have shouted out like lots of expletives. I was more concerned about the book being damaged than I was about my toe being broken. But the thing is that on the back of what you've just said about the creative process and your approach, and me saying to you about the fact that method and presentation working in tandem, this is something that is really, it goes into a lot more depth on here.
Yeah.
It's about the approach to magic, the approach that you take to magic. I, for one, I love sleight of hand. We're all interested in sleight of hand, in methods, generally what happens is you see something and it fools you and you think, wow, that's for me, I've got to buy that because that's a great method. There are lots of clever methods in here, but more importantly, this is a set of works that will start making you think exactly how you feel about your magic that you're performing. And they are more than anything else. I mean, if I was to say they're eye-opening, they are eye-opening because they seriously make you question what you're doing.
Which a good book should.
Yes.
If you look at Maximum Entertainment, an amazing book.
Yeah. And one that we talked about on here before. Me and Dave talked about it on one of the other book corners. But it is, and this is not just me saying it because I own a copy. I wouldn't understand why someone wouldn't have a copy of these books. Now that they're readily available again.
Well, the other thing to point out as well, they are readily available at the moment. We do have them in stock. We don't know how long they're going to stay in print.
Yeah.
And I would expect they will go out of print pretty soon, to be fair, because they're a very popular book. And when they're out of print, how long is it going to take to rerun?
Yeah.
That's the thing. And then we go full back, circle to the fact that the price will shoot up again.
Yeah,
get
exactly.
them while you can.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
Yeah, but they are. It's very rare. I mean, there are books, throughout history that I think you could say would make you really question the way that you perform magic, such as Maximum Entertainment, Strong Magic, Design of Miracles, and Magic and Showmanship. Those sort of things. I think that the reason that these books are so good is that you can understand Tommy Wonder's approach as well. So by that I mean it not only makes you question what you're doing in your approach to magic, but exactly why he started to question it, and why he took the approach that he did, and why he looked at things that other people possibly weren't looking at. And you take the ideas behind misdirection, for example. Throughout the whole of my life, up until I got these books, my idea of misdirection was exactly what everybody else's idea of misdirection was, which was you make them look over there. It's not about that at all. And there are concrete examples in here as to why this is the wrong approach. And we're not talking about preachy examples. We're not talking about the sort of approach of this is what I feel and this is why this is wrong. Valid arguments and valid reasons why his approach is a better route. And I think you read the pages in here and you are taking the journey that he's taken. And I think that's an important thing. And not only that, but every time I read this, I find something different. I interpret something different to what I've interpreted it before. So I may read something first of all and think, oh right, okay, and it sinks in, but it's not until I read it the second time I think, right, that's what was meant. So they are a wonderful, wonderful set of books, and like Peter said, they're here in stock at the moment, but we don't know for how long, and I really don't think it'll be that long because they are a popular book. So really, if you haven't got it on your shelves, you should have this on your shelves. It is something that I would be willing to say that if you had these two books and maybe a handful of others, that's all you would need in a bookshelf, to be fair. Because there is absolute gold in these pages as well.
And similarly, if you are into mentalism, if you don't own, especially the first copy, the first one, Psychological Subtleties 1, should have that in your library. Definitely. The other two are great, but this one will teach you more about the psychological subtleties, where the others are geared more at routines using them. But this will give you the grounding for them. Yeah,
exactly. And remember, these are building blocks. These are building blocks that you can use. Stuff in here. Even if you're a seasoned pro, don't think that if you've been doing magic for years. I mean, crikey, I've been doing magic since I was 10. And you started at a young age as well. Don't think that you're not up for learning new stuff, or that things that even have been out for a long time, like the Banachek books or the Books of Wonder, aren't for you, because I guarantee that you'll find something in their pages, and it might just be that thing where you think, wow, that is amazing.
Yeah.
Don't leave it to us to be the first people to tell you about these. Go out and search and play around and have a look and enjoy them as well. Have fun looking through the book and looking and making little notes and just experiencing the what's contained within the pages, because I think you'll thank us for it in the end. So brilliant. That is cool. Thank
Brilliant.
you so much.
No, thank you, mate. Thanks for having me on Book Corner.
Yes, indeed. I'm sure I'll get you on here again at some point. So, without further ado, the last thing, not without further ado, I slipped into Shakespeare there for a second. It just leaves me to say thank you again, Peter.
Always a pleasure.
Much. Guys, if you have any questions about books, please don't hesitate to give me a call in the office. The number appears on the contact page of our website. Obviously, you can also catch us on our email address, which is sales@alakazam.co.uk, and also our newest function as well. We now have live chat, so you can reach any one of us really. But if you want to direct it to me, just put that it's for my attention. If someone else picks it up, then they can pass it over. But that is there for you to use. We jump on there, and any questions you have to ask, even if it's about anything different to books, then by all means ask, because we're here to help. Then it is there for you to do so. So I want to thank you once again for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you again next time on the Alakazam Book Corner.